welcome. We are kicking off the week here at iPEC with one of our favorite ways to engage through the Energy Explorers live series. And like I said, excited to jump in on the week with some really inspiring conversation, especially because this is the last week of the year, which is incredible and mind-blowing all at the same time. And even amidst the busyness of the holiday season, life tends to, slow down a little bit in those days leading up to the new year. And if we are so fortunate, we have an opportunity to look inward and think about what's to come. And that's what we're going to dive into today. But as we are preparing for that conversation, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Carla Greengrass, and I'm an admissions coach here at iPEC Coach Training, the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. And I am delighted, taking the glasses off for a second, I am delighted to be hosting the Energy Explorers live series today with our guest, Lawrence Henderson, who I'll introduce in a moment. But first and foremost, our mission here at iPEC is to raise the consciousness of the world one person at a time. And one of the ways we get to do that as part of our conscious community is through conversation and engaging with one another and keeping the space open for ideas. And again, we're so glad that you joined us. We are a community of helpers with big hearts, and that is one of the wonderful things in getting to engage with our graduates and our community members, to get to explore how we're all showing up energetically and share ideas in ways that we can expand the consciousness in the world. So we get to highlight these fabulous people like Lawrence, and we get to engage with you, those who are joining us. And I'm going to get into introducing our guest because I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to hear from Lawrence. And now I'm putting the glasses back on so I can actually read what is in front of me. So our guest, Lawrence Henderson, is a certified and professionally trained, I love this, comfort disrupting teddy bear with over 20 years of experience in organizational development, professional coaching, and leadership experience. Lawrence identifies as a husband, a brother, a friend, a U.S. Army veteran, a Black man, and all things representing the Ohio State Buckeyes. I got that right, correct? And just FYI, because we are in the season of holiday gift giving, Lawrence wants you to know, if you are thinking about getting him a gift, let it be Nutty Bars, which we're going to have to sideline a conversation because I'd really like to know what Nutty Bars are. Coffee or beef jerky. I feel like we now have a window into your soul, Lawrence, based on your holiday requests. Whenever you are ready, you can unmute yourself because we cannot wait to dive into conversation with you. Welcome.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Carla, for allowing me this opportunity. But Nutty Bars are, little Debbie snacks that I always have an affectionate place in my heart.
I will be Googling that actually after we wrap up our conversation, and know that there may be another convert here because, man, that sounds great. So one of the many reasons I'm really excited to talk to you is, again, because we are at this sort of precipice of a new year. If you're plugging into any level of media or social content, there's a lot of talk right now about New Year's resolutions, about, one of the things that I've always done, or not always done, but for the last few years, a word, right? Picking that word for the new year. And whatever the inspiration is to do that, there often, it feels exciting, but it also feels like a lot of pressure to decide what am I doing for the new year? What kind of intention am I setting? What kind of word am I picking? And, something that, in talking with you that really resonated was this idea of picking a word that feels like you're supposed to pick, like, I want to lose weight. I want to, be more organized. I want to keep my house clean. I want to, whatever. It can feel very heavy and pressure filled versus kind of leaning into what feels Right. And being at choice. And so I just kind of want to set that table for us to have a conversation around making that shift and being
Yeah.
able to come from a place of choice in a way that feels authentic. So
Hmm.
I'm just going to sort of put that out there and ask you to kind of fill in a little bit of your story for us,
Yeah.
especially in terms of how you came to iPEC first and foremost,
Yeah.
because that plays into it a little bit.
It does. It does. Well, so I'm not going to start you all the way back at the origin story of birth of Lawrence, but I will start with my transition from the U.S. Army, and I can't believe this January it'll be 7 years when I transitioned back in 2015, and time flies definitely when you're aligned and having fun. And in that season of life for me of figuring out what I wanted to be outside of the uniform, there was this moment that I was transitioning through, and similar to what you're talking about, I've always been taught how to write goals, how to write things down. But as I've done this coaching thing now for these several years formally and getting these modalities and the training into awareness of what that looks like for me, there was this huge disconnect. And again, I'll use the word identity of what it meant for me doing the next thing. And so being familiar with HR and all the rest of those things in the military, there was this connection to HR, but not in the sense that it was on this side of life outside of uniform, which was very specialized. Be a specialist, be a specialist. And there was this huge focus. And so my first HR job was not something sexy that I wanted, but being aligned. You talk about words. That word in that season of life for me and my family was alignment. And as I was seeking alignment, it really led me to want to reach out to, in my first corporate job, to people in learning and development, to people in organizational change management. And those are the people that are just, again, when you set the intention, you set the word, it was like people were lined up, and I was being introduced to executives, got my first formal mentor who made sure that he was putting people in front of me that aligned with what I said I wanted to be. And that led me down this journey of seeking coaching. And I would love to say I had an amazing interaction with coaches, particularly, ICF credential coaches, but it was actually a horrible run in with a highly credentialed coach that caused me, again, the Major Henderson came out in that moment and was like, that wasn't a good interaction. That can't be true for coaching. And I'm so glad today that doing my research and going through and 4 coaching certifications later, that wasn't a good coaching interaction. It was more of a consultative, your life isn't good without me kind of interaction. But that's led me today to where I understand, and going through iPEC, and grateful for the GI Bill that allowed me that opportunity to go through iPEC's training, which really, and I tell you all, if you're considering coaching or anything else out there, please be forewarned. If you're thinking about iPEC, it's for you. There was so much internal stuff that I still needed to uncover, and going through iPEC's program really revealed that for me and further deepened the roots of alignment in my life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And that it's for me. And I remember in our conversation originally it was, I feel like I need to do this so that I can help others. And which makes perfect sense, right? And especially in that HR space and in that space of, service, which, seems to be a golden thread, in who you are. We want to show up stronger for others, right? We want to add the skills, we want to add the credentials for all sorts of reasons. And in the seat, the privileged seat that I hold, where I get to have these conversations with people thinking about coaching, a lot of times that first conversation, it's, I want the credentials, I want the skills, I want the tools, which was my story too, right? And then within the program, and it sounds like we shared that experience, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, like, I said I wanted the skills and tools and I'm going to get that. But that transformation, that journey becomes so much more about how we show up and owning that so that we can show up stronger for others.
Well, Carla, you know what? That one right there, I would tell you before mod weekend one, so module one, like, and the instructor just really hit a chord for me and it was the first exercise, one of the many exercises in that first weekend that was really right that I knew this was going to be different was they asked us to text the three closest people to us and ask them their three words of how they describe us. Right. And it was like, do your words first, write your words down first. And literally what you were just talking about, Carla, is how are people experiencing you? Before I want to get these tools and I want to go help the world, it's like, hey, how are people currently experiencing you? And it was in that awareness that I was like, ooh, okay, now why is that information important to know? Because again, more than just the words that they used, the words they used were their experiences. And if I had this misplaced, and my three words weren't their three words. And so what was happening was this disconnect between what I believed about myself versus how others experienced me and what they believed about me. And I was like, if I'm going to be a good coach, I need to bring things closer in alignment as it returns to descriptions or what I actually am living and get the examples of how they experience those things from me. And if there were some gaps and there were some things that were off, I needed to address those and lean into them, not in a bad way, but in the ultimate coaching reframe of, okay, what does this mean? Okay, how do I, if I need to change it, what steps do I need to take? Who do I need in my corner to help me? And this is where the one of belief that coaches need coaches. It was my first interaction of me signing myself up saying, you know what? And I loved iPEC's program because matching us up with peer coaches and being able to go through that gauntlet of peer. And I'm like, man, don't threaten me with a good time. If I got a coach in front of me, I'm like, I'm going to get coached. But it was about me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's, I literally, I started to get choked up when you were talking about that because I remember that exercise, and on both sides of that, right? Like, how we perceive ourselves, right? And the stories that we're telling ourselves, about how we show up, and then to be able to hear from others and to acknowledge it, right? To sit in that space of acknowledging, and there's no good or bad, it just is, right?
Yeah.
And to sort of experience that without any attachment and just to, it really is a gift, that awareness is a gift, and that gift of being able to hold that space for yourself as well as for others. And so in the way that obviously we're hearing how that showed up for you and how important that was for you as an individual, on the other side of that, how you now show up with when we say being a coach in all aspects of your life. So how you show up with your clients, how you show up with your family, how has that impacted that engagement?
Now that I use the term is, if you're a coach, you model ABCs, always be coaching in every aspect of your life. I mean, there's no disconnect. I'm a coach.
Yeah.
It's who I am. And the funny thing is my wife was telling this story the other day, and we were just talking about different people that we have conversations with and talk about the topics that always come up and different things like that. And she was like, like you, coaching comes up, value conversations come up, leadership development comes up. And she was like, it's not a bad, it's you. It's just you. And she was like, regardless of who you're talking about, I know it's going to come up. She was like, it's in your DNA, like it's who you are. And at first I was like, in the level one in me wanting to be like, no, in level one is, kind of that catabolic kind of, like, I'm more than, but no, that's who I am. Like, I've evolved into this person that can really have these in-depth conversations, good, bad, and different. Just it's who I am, and it's kind of where I sit, and that's how I that's how my level 5 comes to play, which is,
Mm,
that, we all win or we don't play kind of thing. And it's part of
yeah,
mine. And so that's how I show up in spaces with people. It's just,
yeah.
all right, this is who I am. Opportunity and possibilities are everywhere.
I love that. I love that. And um, and sort of one of the things that you had shared is that um, it allowed going through the program allowed you to be a truer version of yourself.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
just to hold better space. So, you know, I guess share a little bit
Yeah.
about, holding space for someone across the
Mm,
table. And, and it actually goes back to the beginning of our
yeah.
conversation in terms of, what is the expected answer? What is the
Yeah.
right answer versus, what's on your heart? And so expand a little.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things and the greatest gifts of awareness and different things like that is when you're sitting across from a client and you really begin to say, how do I want to honor that person? It's you honor them by allowing their stuff be their stuff. All right, Lawrence, what does that mean? It means you as coach don't have intentions for their responses
Mm-hmm.
to your questions. And
Mm-hmm.
and and how I hold space for others. There's one acronym again, another gift of coaching. We love acronyms. Was something I used to write at the top of all of my kind of pages. And at first, I was that coach that took notes, but I would write wait and wait as an acronym. Why am I talking?
Mm-hmm.
And I began to apply that to the questions I wanted to ask a client. And the reason why am I talking? It's all about the intention of your question. Is my question for them or is that question for me? Because I'm being selfish and now I'm prying and I'm trying to lead them somewhere. And
Mm-hmm.
when I began to be conscious about this is not my session, this is about their awareness and where they want to go with this thing. The reasons why you got to get clear and with the guardrails of the session, I like to call the coaching agreement at the beginning, is being clear about what's the goal of that session and can they begin to flush out why that now? Why is that coming up for you is the most important thing for us to discuss today, right? That those are all the things that come out in the exchange. And once I got, and I would say got good and really that rep, like, okay, it's theirs. It's theirs. It's theirs. It's not about me. It's theirs. And
Mm-hmm.
constantly checking in with myself throughout a session. That's how I began to be that person that really, when I hold a space and I ask a question and a client across from me begins to respond. And then here's what always happens invariably. They stop themselves. And here's that coaching moment. What else? You see it, the intuition begins to play, and you see it in their face. They got something else. But you say, what else? What else there? I feel like you stopped yourself. Carla, what else?
Mm-hmm.
And that just that permission to just be for them and like, oh, you weren't lying. This really is my space. Yeah, this really is your space.
Yeah.
Man, that's the most powerful things I've evolved into as a coach.
Yes. Wait, so why am I talking? And it sounds like allows you to sort of pull your
Mm-hmm.
ego into check, right?
What?
And to say, okay, this is the, and I say that fully, as someone who
Mm-hmm.
completely, it's totally resonating because I think,
Heck yeah.
there's times where you're like, oh my God, what's the right next question to ask? Or, there's that heavy
Mm-hmm.
responsibility, like, I need to produce results for this person. And again, that's the I that's showing up in
Mm-hmm.
that, right? If you're like, what do
Yep.
I do next? How do I make this?
Exactly.
No, releasing that ego and knowing that you are fully present for that
Yeah.
person. I love that. And
Yeah.
that reminder, why am I talking here? Yeah. And that simple, what else? What else?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you said some particularly around just and again, it was in all the coaching training and coach and I love facilitators of learning and different things like that because one of the ideas was if you're working hard as a
Mm,
coach, you're doing too much. And it's the ego
mm,
stuff. Because
mm,
because again, if you think about our world and the instant gratification of results, and I'm moving somebody towards something.
Right.
Okay, get out of it. Why this? Why now? For them,
Yeah.
right? That's the agreement. And when you get somebody, okay, what do we need to address or resolve? Them, not you. And so that gets you out of your head. And I love the idea of powerful questions, but I believe powerful questions are the best next question.
Mm.
And so those are the things. Yep.
Say more.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
So this again is one of those. And are you present as a coach from an awareness standpoint for the client? Because there may be a question that you have, and I just asked you something in particular, like, hey, Carla, where else is this showing up? And you respond and you go there. When was the last time you paused to address any of that? You go. Huh. And all this stuff starts happening within the client, right? And there are no words are exchanged because coaches understand you don't need to say anything. There is power in your silence because you're letting the client work through stuff. And the next thing that comes out is, I haven't. They just gifted you your next question, coach. What would it look like if you did work through that? What would that mean? What would that look like? How would that help? And again, when you're present, boom, they gift you, clients gift you the best next question, the most necessary question when they're in those moments and you're present for them, not, ooh, I got 5 good questions that I got locked and loaded and I got to answer all 5 of them. Like, come on, like, get out of your own head, coach. Get out of your head. Like,
oh, there you go. Right. That should just be a sign on everyone's right in front of everyone's computer. Get out of your own head, which is a big part of this. I just want to interject for 1 minute to our wonderful folks that are joining us today. If you've got questions for Lawrence, we invite you to put those into the Q&A portion of Zoom or even into the Facebook chat, and we'll make sure to address those. There are some amazing nuggets of wisdom here coming out left and right, especially as, as we think in the broader sense of holding space, whether with a coach, as a coach, or just as a human in this moment, as we're entering into, in some respects, we're just ripping off a page on the calendar and, it'll be the next day. But in an even bigger significance, just looking into the new year and even, honoring yourself and holding space for yourself in the next couple of days to think about that intention. And the opportunity to do not what is expected, but what feels aligned and from a space of choice.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. I'm just curious, how do you celebrate the new year in terms of aligning for this next year ahead? Because people have different kinds of rituals, and I'm always curious about that.
Yeah, so mine has evolved to actually do and using kind of a hybrid of sitting down with, not only SMART goals, but the framework of aiming SMART with all of the things that are significant for me, my business, my family, and all the elements that are me. And that hybrid of, I just got into what are those? The dream boards, if you will.
Oh, yeah, vision board, sure.
Yeah, vision boards. Yeah. So I did my first one with a group of coaches last year. And I absolutely enjoyed it. But I didn't do any of the cutouts. I tried my hand at drawing all of my stuff. And so I had a whole bag of colored markers and all those things. And I love to say that it's one of the things you say in HR, if it's not written, it's not real. And that's why I love that exercise of the pictorial, but also the aim smart, right? And I called the aiming smart of goals. It called it you put in brackets on your success. And so you give yourself a window of wins when you aim smart. And those of you, you have to go through iPEC to get access to the aim. So I'm throwing it out there and be like, oh no, nope, not getting no freebies way. You got to go through course. But just sitting with that and giving myself permission to have brackets on my goals. And the first time I did it, I was like, oh my God, that was an amazing exercise for me to do. And I've actually stuck to achieving more of my goals by putting those brackets of success on my goals and different things like that. So that's kind of how I sit with and meditate, kind of set my intentions. And I even do them on relationships, business relationships, personal relationships, kind of sit down, and those are going to be kind of the things I pray over and the intentions that I set for the new year.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I'm a big vision board girl as well. And for those who are watching now or maybe listening later, what would be some of your thoughts around knowing if the intentions or however you want to describe them that you're setting for yourself are truly for you versus what you think is expected of you?
Yeah. I like to say it like this, and regardless if you're thinking about achieving more, or looking for more, there's always this kind of the butterflies of it. And I always say you rate and you actually label the butterflies. If it's the good butterflies, right? Don't know if anybody's played sports or ever did before a speaking engagement or anything like that. You can kind of get those Showtime butterflies, which is the good stuff, versus there's this extremely emotional, I'm just doing it for the sake of doing it kind of thing. Like if it feels bad to do it, those kind of not turning stomachs. So those are kind of my two spectrums. If it's scary and good versus if it's scary and dangerous, meaning it'll cause harm to me, to others, and all the rest of those things. That's how I filter what my stuff is. And I kind of have my buckets of things that I allow evolution. And it's crazy when you set the intentions to be aligned in your stuff, how it'll multiply. And one of the greatest things I've had to latch onto was having, no as a complete sentence, because it's abundance of opportunity, particularly in coaching and training and development and teaching now as an adjunct at Morehouse College now and doing leadership and professional development. It's just all those opportunities are multiplying when you're in alignment. And so just saying no, like not right now. I can't take on any more good stuff. I can't go. It blows my mind that I actually can say that out loud. But yeah, that's how I filter it. Yeah, the good and scary versus the bad, and it's gonna be bad.
Those are the butterflies. Identifying those butterflies.
Identify the butterfly.
Your own butterfly effect. Well, I would spend all day with you, but I know you've got plans to go out and do some hiking in nature, and I have a feeling all of the folks that are joining us have plans for the rest of this day and week. So a couple of just things to share. Number one, if you want to learn more about Lawrence and him and nutty bars and coffee and beef jerky, you can connect with Lawrence on LinkedIn. We'll also put some links in the chat here. And if you have questions about the things that we wouldn't give you the peek behind the curtain about becoming a coach and the things that you learn at iPEC, there are a number of ways that you can connect to us. You can reach out through our website. We'll give you a link if you want to connect with an admissions coach like myself to learn more about what it means to be a coach, what it means to go through coach training, and the journey that you can be on both professionally and personally. We would love to engage in that conversation with you. And we always have wonderful opportunities, as I mentioned, to come back together as a community. So I think the very next thing we have coming up is coaching office hours. You can find that information on our website under our I think our events tab. You can follow us on Facebook. You'll see what's coming up. And I want to thank you, Lawrence, and wish you the very best in the coming new year. It's been a pleasure to be in conversation. To everyone that's joined us, thank you so much. Wishing you a wonderful week ahead, a very healthy, safe, happy, meaningful, and peaceful new year. Thanks so much.
See you later, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.